Well, how much will the coronavirus outbreak affect economic growth in China and globally? And how different is this time compared to the SARS outbreak? Well, we're joined by Leigh Fatzinger, founder and CEO of Turbine Labs, a data intelligence firm based in Denver, Colorado. It's great to have you, Leigh.
Thank you, Rachelle. It's great to be on.
So as we saw, China has been praised by the WHO for its fast response to contain the coronavirus and has really made stopping it a top priority. But what are the most immediate ways we're seeing this affecting the economy?
Yes, and so what we're seeing is a narrative around comparing the economic impact of what we saw in the SARS virus versus what we're seeing with coronavirus in 2020. And one of the key differences, not only in the comparison, is how the narrative is being played in the media. And the media environment is entirely different this time around than it was in the SARS epidemic. And so that is lending itself to sort of defining how the markets are moving based on how easy it is for narratives and stories to build up, whether or not they're warranted or not.
And obviously, there's a lot of misinformation, a lot of panic, so it is important to get the correct information out there. What's your take on the government's response, not just to sort of the misinformation, but also how domestic businesses who are being affected by the virus?
Well, I think it's very critical that the Chinese government think about brand China because those kinds of narratives take longer to repair. So obviously we're concerned that if the background and the origination of the virus was not delivered in an appropriate way to health organizations, then that's going to have an impact on brand China. But what I think we're seeing is that the awareness of the virus is to the point where it's ubiquitous in its awareness, and now it's about managing expectations to quell economic growth and progress. And keep in mind, China gets, or 80% of everything that China makes is exported, and so it's clearly in China's interest to ensure that those pathways to exports, but as well as imports of tourists and business people, is cleared as soon as it's ensured that China is a safe place to go.
So then when you look at the industries that are most affected by this and you look at the lessons learned from the SARS outbreak, what do Chinese businesses and consumers need to really instill confidence right now?
Well, I think Chinese businesses need to be aware that going into their establishments is safe, and you're seeing responses from Chinese restaurant chains and retail outlets. Apple and Starbucks are American companies that are obviously being impacted by this, but it's a catch-22, right? You would say that the more information, the better. But on the other hand, in the environment where it is extremely easy to pass misinformation or salacious information, that is causing businesses both in China and the United States to question, is what we're hearing both within the media and from the health organizations accurate? And so we can absolutely see that it is a fine line in which they have to walk.
And a lot of these companies have expanded significantly in China since the SARS outbreak back in 2003. You mentioned Starbucks and, of course, Apple. You also have chip maker Qualcomm. How do you see this affecting their strategies and their business? Because they've obviously had to shut a lot of their stores.
Well, certainly in the short term, there is going to be an adverse impact both on top-line revenues as well as consumer loyalty. But I think as we've seen that those behaviors will bounce back to normal relatively quickly, but a lot of that also has to do with the kind of information that consumers are getting, the frequency at which they're getting, and most importantly, the trust that they have in the information. So I think if consumers see that they're being informed in an accurate way, and that nations, not only inside China in the Far East, but also in Europe and the United States, are producing accurate and balanced information, not information that's salacious, then you'll see consumers bounce back relatively quickly. But your point about the WHO being a measured response to messages that come either from the media or from governments is what we need to see more of.
All right, thank you so much. Leigh Fatzinger there, founder and CEO of Turbine Labs.